Good evening. It's 6:15 and we'll call the Water and Wastewater Committee meeting.
Okay, what we're doing tonight is our chemical bids renewals for 23-24 fiscal year. What you have, the highlighted chemicals that you see that's highlighted yellow were the lowest bids, with the exception of the polyaluminum chloride, which is a chemical that I use to treat the water. There's different varieties of it. That's a chemical we don't bid. I just quote what works. I've put 3 on the list. All 3 of those I would like to use this year because one of them's got a higher price, but it's got a higher chemical base to it. So that one is not bid. The rest
Kind of a
them,
wash, right? Kind of a wash.
it should be a wash.
Mhm.
It may even be some savings there. So
Mhm.
I just want to try it to see. So
Good.
it's got quite a bit of more chemical in it. So, but bleach actually went down from 242 down to 214. So that was one chemical that we've been seeing an increase in. It did drop. Everything else pretty much stayed the same. So, but I just need to get your approval.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Ricky. This committee meeting is adjourned.
Mr. Glenn, since what you all are discussing isn't any kind of actionable item tonight, if you all want to go ahead and start your presentation, I think that's okay with me, if that's okay with the rest of the board.
Mayor Chastain, Board Alderman, Mr. Mean. My name is James Mickey Gwynn, and thank you for the opportunity to come before you this evening. I come before you as both the Museum Director of the Black History Museum of Warren County, Tennessee, and also as a native of McMinnville in Warren County. And if you would indulge me for just a couple of minutes, I'd like to say a few words. Excuse me. In 1969, well before many of you were born, a project came through McMinnville that forever changed the neighborhood, our neighborhood, my neighborhood. It was called urban renewal. Like many things, urban renewal had its good points and bad points, and I won't belabor that issue. But I think most of us will attest that a true urban renewal never happened. Just look at the area between Bursaber Street and Main Street on the east end of town. A SWOT analysis that was part of the city of McMinnville's 2021-2022 strategic goals listed high cost of housing and low ownership as a weakness. This same analysis listed creative home ownership as an opportunity and noted that parts of the city was being underserved, and this was a threat. Collectively, organizations like Young Men United and the Black History Museum feel it's time for the east side of McMinnville to have a new and modern urban renewal. It's time for the city of McMinnville to dust off that SWOT analysis and address the high cost of housing and low ownership. It's time for the city to work with private entities to develop creative home ownership plans and show a little love to an underserved part of the city. And we have a plan. Black History Museum of Warren County, in cooperation with Young Men United and other groups, has a concept we think will address issues identified in the SWOT analysis, make the east side of McMinnville a desirable living area, and benefit the entire county. We have drafted a strategic plan that would bring a cultural center to property currently owned by the city of McMinnville in the area adjacent to Ramsey Park and the Bernard Gym. The vision of the cultural center is to house the current Black History Museum, provide adequate administrative space for Young Men United, and offer a venue for the local white, Hispanic, South Asian, Native American, and other cultures to exhibit the historical and current elements of their heritage. As you know, the demographics of McMinnville and Warren County have changed since I was a teenager here. As a local venue for various cultural events, this center would be a melting pot for the very diverse population that is now McMinnville, Tennessee. This center will also be a catalyst for private investment in the properties bordered by the center. Potential homeowners are attracted to areas that have potential for modest return on investment. Areas that include community centers and greenway spaces. Thank you, Dr. Bigby, for Sally's Alley. These attract prospective buyers, and I'm trying my best to be part of that private venture. We feel with a public-private partnership encompassing local, state, and federal funding, this proposal could become a reality and a stagnant part of McMinnville to prosper. New affordable housing, coupled with remodeled properties, would add to the county's tax rolls and be a source of pride. This would also address McMinnville's creative ownership opportunity mentioned earlier. Ramsey Park has been an appreciated token in Young Men United's valiant efforts to save and restore the only remaining parcel of the Bernard School campus, the Bernard Gym, and the fulfillment of Wayne Wolfer's vision of opening a Black History Museum has shown McMinnville that Black Warren Countyans care about our history, but we also care about all of the people of McMinnville and Warren counties that make this a great place to live. As I've often told the museum's board of directors, I think the museum has exhausted our pool of local tourists. In line with the county's recent decision to consider joining the McMinnville Tourism Development Board to better promote the county, our plan is to based on increased tourism from out of county, out of state, and even out of country sources. But for tourism to flourish, there has to be an attraction to entice visitors. The museum has seen a trend where non-local visitors to the museum have also included a dining opportunity as part of their day out. This was reflected in visits by staffs from the Tennessee State Museum and Motlow State Community College. A reciprocal visit to the museum by the Upper Cumberland Museums Alliance will also include lunch locally. As you can see, the residual effects of this plan will directly contribute to the economic impact of the city and county. And I foresee other opportunities for business owners as a result of the increased tourism. I know such a venture is more complex than a short 7-minute speech can entail, but what we are asking for tonight is for the leadership of McMinnville to consider our proposal and ultimately partner with community groups previously mentioned to investigate all avenues available to make this dream a reality. My plea to you is to stand with us. Consider the East End when researching community development block grants and other public funding opportunities. And we'll do our part to seek private funding. Let's work together to make McMinnville the premier city for inclusion, culture, and diversity, and a destination location. If you need further information, I'm available to answer any questions. Once again, thank you for your time tonight.
Anybody have any questions or anything?
I just think it's a great proposal.
I do too.
Thank you, Mr. Gwynn.
Beautiful building. Right. This is good.
You all should have a copy of that proposal in detail in your packets, so.
Somebody did a really good job on putting this together. Good job.
Full board meeting doesn't start for about 35 more minutes, so it. Get up, walk around, have something to eat, come back.
Yes, she knows. And how do we know what's available? Is it, you just go one of your incomes and sign up and yes, you train them. And they'll tell you what that is. This is.
It's 7 o'clock. We will call to order this regularly scheduled meeting of the McMinnville City Board of Mayor and Aldermen. The first item on the agenda is roll call.
Steve Harvey,
Here.
Sally Brock.
Here.
Deidre Dunlap,
Present.
Stacy Harvey,
Present.
Rachel Kirby,
Here.
Carrie Morton. Here. Mayor Chastain.
Present. The next item on the agenda is consideration of minutes. Each member of the board should have received those in their agenda packet. If there be no requests for additions, corrections, or deletions, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with the reading and approve them as read.
Make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey, a second by Ms. Deidre Dunlap. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Recognition of visitors. Anyone who wishes to address the board, come on up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Go ahead. See.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jenny Nafrada, the chairperson of the Industrial Development Board, and I'd like to introduce our new Industrial Development Director, Wendy Sneed, who started with us on June the 1st. I'll let her come introduce herself.
Thanks for letting me have a moment. I'm glad to be here in Warren County. My husband and I have lived here for about 16 years now. And I have been employed with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture as a business development consultant, helping recruit meat processors and food manufacturers to the state. So we have a great network of economic developers in the region and look forward to working with the county and better.
Thank you.
Member Brock, live at 410 West Main Street. I guess you figured I would be coming up here after I wrote the letter to the editor in the Southern Standard. I reiterate that I think 41-cent tax hike is just outrageous. We ended up, I was on the board at the time, inheriting 4.2 million from the feds for ARC money. And it just it blows my mind that we can go after 41 cents when it seems like the needs are more further down the road next year, and the next year after that, from the information I could see. So you guys are going to have to live with whatever you do in the tax rate. Second of all, I couldn't find any public notice of the meetings that you had, the budget meetings, the 30th and 31st. So I went to the newspaper and asked them, and they said, no, that you didn't put a notice in there. I also didn't see a notice for this meeting tonight. And I'm just curious if you changed policies on notices.
We don't put them in the newspaper. We post them on the website and we post them outside the door. So
When did that change?
it's been like that.
No, it hadn't. When I was on the board, it never was that way. It was always in the newspaper as well as on downstairs. But,
Well, I didn't find anything.
you can
that-
change policy. I don't know if it affects the sunshine law at all. I mean, I don't think there's probably anything that says you have to do it, but it says you have to give notice.
It's on
And-
the website on the first homepage.
Mhm.
And then when you go enter the departments, I have to put the agenda there and then I post it on the door.
Okay. Then the third thing that I want is I had asked for some freedom of information back, I think on the 1st of the month, and I hadn't heard anything back on that. So I'd like to find out what's happening there. You had 10 days to respond, and it's been 10 or 11, so.
Libby, did you?
We did not receive anything.
I sent
Nor has Andrea received.
It goes to our email. I haven't received anything.
it out on the website. I sent 2 of them in. Is the website not working?
There isn't a way to submit it via the website. You have to print the form, fill it out and email.
Okay. I guess that's my bad. It wasn't clear, so I went ahead and filled it out and hit send and it went, so. Okay. Not a problem. Again, I hope that you do not look at the 41 cents. I think the 41 cents is really outrageous. And I think that you could do a little bit better on that, either a lower amount or look at other ways to finance the projects that you've got coming. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? Next item on the agenda is recognition of employees. We have several departments heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to give recognition to an employee, come on up. Mr. Ming, do you have anything?
Other than, well, I guess the sidewalks on Main Street, those are happening. So as you're out and about, please be careful. Watch out for our guys out there fixing the sidewalks. They're making good progress. So thank you.
Looking good, Frank.
Mhm.
The next item on the agenda is communications. There are none. Item 6 is petitions. There are none. Item 7 is unfinished business. Does any member of the board have any unfinished business this evening? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, new business. Any new business to come before the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, resolutions. Item 9A is resolution number 2208 to authorize the city of McMinnville to approve the payment of invoice 04W131589 for a 2013 Mack GU dump truck for the city of McMinnville Public Works Department to Worldwide Equipment of Chattanooga, Tennessee, to authorize the city administrator to issue the necessary payment on behalf of the city and to express the time when this resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make the motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Ms. Sally Brock, a second by Ms. Rachel Kirby.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
this is I was a little confused when I read that this is for a repair. The resolution kind of reads that it's for a dump truck instead of the repair of a dump truck.
Yeah, that's,
And I think that's something that it's just a repair.
okay.
I'm assuming it says that on the invoice too, I bet.
Well, it does on the invoice, but it doesn't in the in the resolution A. I know it's just a minor thing, but
On the actual resolution, it looks like it might say
Yeah.
for the repair of a dump truck.
Yeah,
okay, good. All right, good.
Maybe
deal.
up here in the on the agenda, it may read differently.
I can go in and edit and put repair.
Yeah, on the resolution that I have here, it says the same thing that it does on the agenda. So let the record reflect that this is for repairs to an existing 2013 Mack GU dump truck and not the purchase of a used vehicle. And then
Big catch.
once that resolution is the wording is fixed, I will sign that resolution.
The resolution that I have in my digital copy says repair.
Any
Sorry.
fur- any- Oh, no, that's good. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Rachel Kirby. Yes. Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Victor Dunlap,
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
Carrie Morton. Yes. Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 9B is resolution 2209, and we are going to defer this resolution to the next meeting just to allow more time for discussion on the budget and the tax rate. Item 10 is ordinances. Item 10A is ordinance number 1857, ordinance of the city of McMinnville, Tennessee, to execute a revised version of the plan for occupational safety and health programs for the employees. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Ms. Carrie Morton. Libby, do you want to provide some context or provide us some information on this?
This is just an update. We have to update it every 7 years. OSHA asks for an updated version. The only thing updated this time was the org chart. And it just puts in writing our commitment and our process and procedure to the safety guidelines and our safety programs. So it's exactly the same as 2016 with the org chart updated.
You, any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Carrie Morton,
Yes.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Ordinance number 1856 about declaring certain real estate surplus property has also been deferred to the next meeting to allow more time for discussion on the budget and tax rate. Which brings us to item C, ordinance number 1859, an ordinance of the city of McMinnville, Tennessee, to adopt the annual budget and tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 and ending June 30th, 2024. This is the first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Ms. Deidre Dunlap. So we do have two versions of the budget that were in the packets. Item or version A is the version that was decided upon out of the finance committee. And then version B was with some revisions and some reductions out of some of the departmental budgets. And then there were also a number of subversions of those, including different amounts of a tax rate just for reference, from a 0 cent increase all the way up to 41. So open it up for discussion.
Steve, you have something?
Yeah, I would like to make an amendment to that budget, and it did come out of finance committee. I did not vote for it, but it did come out of finance committee, and I would like to make an amendment to adopt version B of this proposal, and also to have no tax increase at $0 to keep the tax rate the same as it is now. And I'll talk a little bit about why. Our fund balance in June 30th of this year is projected to be $7.9 million. If we go with version B and no tax increase, the fund balance is projected to be $5 million. And that's if we spend 100% of our budget and have no increase in revenue. This year, it looks like we're going to spend about 97% of our budget, which is about $500,000. If we do that same thing again next year, which is very likely, it's not given that we will, but it is very likely, that $500 we'll save can go back to our general fund balance. Also, we have potential to sell some property if it becomes deemed that we no longer need it. That could be a potential large amount of money, up to $750,000, which is kind of conservative, but that is a possibility for us to have some additional income. Also, I'd like to look at sales tax. I have the sales tax numbers dating all the way back to 2017, 2018. And in that time, if you take local option, sales tax, the agreement with the county, and state sales tax, in those since 2017, 18, sales taxes have increased about $1.8 million per year. And they've increased steadily each year. Just from last year to this year, they increased about $385,000. Now, always a big chunk of that is the agreement with the county, because it increases every year by percentage wise until it tops out. But also see no reason why that trend won't continue next year. Maybe not $400,000 worth, but I think we will increase our sales tax intake. And let's say if you picked a conservative number of $250,000 and you put all those numbers together, and this is best case scenario, I admit that this is not all necessarily going to happen, but it very likely could. That would put our ending fund balance at $6.5 million at the in June of 2024. So I'm saying the $5 million, we spent, would be our worst case. And 6.5 would be our probably best case scenario. And usually the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So that would put you at an average of about 5.7 to $5.8 million projected fund balance in June of 2024, which I think is very much enough for what we need to carry over. You have about a $3 million swing from the end of June until September and October when property taxes start coming in. So that would mean your lowest balance you would ever have would be $2.5 million, which is very good in my opinion. If you passed a 41% tax increase and you went with version B, you're going to carry over about $7.3 million. If you have the 41% tax increase with version A, you're going to carry over about $7 million, assuming any of those numbers are correct. That with the increase in income with the numbers that I gave earlier, and I just think that if as a citizen, if I were a taxpayer, I would not be happy with you raising my taxes by 41% and then having $7 million left over at the end of the year. So my proposal is to adopt version B and have a 0-cent tax increase.
So can I ask a question about that? So your projected end balance does include the one-time revenue of the sale of surplus property, should it be gone. So that's one-time revenue, not recurring.
Well,
So you take that out of it and we end up really close to, being short again.
that's true, but I also gave an average between the best and the worst, which kind of takes that one-time sale back out of it. If you count the one-time sale, it puts us about $6.5 million. If you average between my lowest and highest, that puts us at about 5.7 to 5.8, which is basically less sale of surplus property.
So right now we have a motion on the table to adopt version B with no tax increase. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay.
And one other thing too is that even at the worst case, at our projected $5 million carryover at version B, if we spend all our money and don't have any increased revenue, lowest fund balance will be around $2 million. So that's acceptable to me as well.
Well, just by my recollection, and Samantha, you might have to correct me on this because I get stuff wrong as I've gotten older, a lot more. But I thought that in our finance committee meeting that you had updated that cash burn, and that cash burn was between 4.0 and $4.2 million during the 3 months after the start of the fiscal year. Do I remember that wrong?
That's our total expenditures. I think what Steve was referring to is we do have some revenue coming in during those months, but it's not property tax revenue. It's not a large amount of revenue. So I think what he was referring to is the net between the expenditures and then what revenue we do bring in. So if you only look at your expenditures for July, August, and September, last year it was 4 million. Previous years, it's been 3 million. So we saw that much of an increase just in one fiscal year.
33%.
But we are bringing in revenue. State sales tax comes in, local options coming in monthly. So I think what he's talking about is the difference between
What I call the swing. So
Correct.
your beginning balance to your lowest balance.
So our expenditures are 4 million, but there is a little bit of revenue coming in during that time.
Approximately, what is that little bit of revenue over that quarter? Well, I mean, what would it average on a month?
I would have to look.
Fair enough. Sorry,
No,
sorry
you're
about
fine,
that.
you're
I
fine.
just, that $4 million to $4.2 million number being a 33% increase over the previous year, it was indicative to me of the increased cost of doing business all over the world. You know, everything's more expensive now. And that's what stuck. That's what
Correct.
stuck to me. And a $5 million reserve was $800,000 from being overdrawn in the checking account. You know, that's how I identified that in my mind.
I think the 1 million on the revenue side to get back to the 3 million would be a pretty conservative figure. So I think we'd be a little bit higher, like our revenue would be a little bit more than the 1 million. So you would have that $3 million swing or the net there. I think we'd bring in a little bit more than $1 million in those 3 months.
Okay. All right. So if we had 5 and we spent 4,
Mhm,
that's 1.
mhm.
And then if we added another, that's 2. That's not 3, that's 2.
That's 2 that it dropped to. But it's a $3 million drop between end of June and when property taxes start coming in.
Right. Well, this is what, and maybe I'm way off on this, and it could be, this is what I heard, or what, it's what I understood.
Well, that's what I thought too. And then I clarified it. I thought it was a $4 million drop.
That's
from
what, yeah, that's what I
net,
did.
but it's $4 million of expenses, but we also have some income during that time to offset that 4 million drop, which is about $1 million, which makes it a $3 million drop.
Okay, so that, I mean, we're talking about that for this coming up fiscal year. Right now.
Yeah.
Well, our reserve, the motion that came out of finance is that we would hold a $5 million reserve. And
At
so
the end of June.
of next year, after this budget is expended.
Right. And that's where we're
Correct.
at.
Okay, so that's where my math has started there and come backwards. That's where I am. So if we had 5, at June 30, we had 5, we spent 4.2. We spent 4, that's 1.
But you've also had income coming in all that time.
Only in the 3 months. And so we add
That's
a
the time
million,
we're
we add a million in the 3 months, right?
Mhm.
All right, so that's 1.8. It's not 3.
So I think
Um,
MTS recommended 3 months of expenditures. I chose July, August, September, because that's the lowest point our fund balance gets throughout the year. So those 3 months, that's the number I reported is $4 million in expenditure, whereas previous years it was only 3. So if we spend 4, bring in $1 million in revenue, which I think is on the conservative side, to be fair, that's where that $3 million swing or depletion of that fund balance. So if we start at 5, 4, and then
Start at 5, spend 4, you got 1, and then you got 8. Actually, if you spend, well, let's do it round numbers. You got 1,
Mhm.
you bring in $1 million, that's 2 in the 3 months. It's not 3. You said 3 million.
No, I said 2 was the lowest it would ever get. If you
He's saying
take,
he would
if you take
deplete at 3.
version B with no tax increase, any fund balance is $5 million. And so that would allow us to never drop below 2 million. I said there's a $3 million swing,
Okay.
which would never
Fair
drop below 2.
I just want to be sure that I'm tracking with your numbers there, because those are numbers that didn't come out of finance committee. Those are numbers that didn't come from the city treasurer. Those are numbers that came from this side of this dais here. They did not come from staff. And so all the numbers that we have here have come from staff. And so now we're taking numbers that have not been vetted by staff, and we're trying to use those numbers to swing a vote. And I have a hard time taking your numbers instead of her numbers, because your numbers may or may not be right.
They may or may not be.
Right.
And-
And I'm not pointing, I'm just saying, we've got the preponderance of the evidence is do we rely on Steve's numbers, or do we rely on numbers that come from staff?
But I will tell you this, everything except the sale of the surplus property numbers came from numbers that we got from staff. I mean, those are all, our budget numbers, spending 97% of our budget and sales tax increase. All those numbers came from information that I got from the city. I mean, the only thing I added was if we decide to sell some property.
Okay.
I mean, a number that I came up with.
Understand?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't want a tax increase any more than anybody else, but We have not had one in over a decade now. And I'm afraid the longer that we kick this can down the road, the more of a tax increase we're going to have to impose upon the taxpayers down the road. And I don't want us to get into the same financial state that the county was in, where it was very nearly down to the state coming in and taking control of things before they had to do it. Property tax, which is our largest financial contributor to the budget, stays more or less the same all of the time. And as we've established in all of these budget meetings, we're not immune to inflation. And everything for this city and this community is costing more. Our personnel is costing more, vehicles, supplies, fuel. The work to do all these projects is costing more. And no, we may not need 41 cents in this fiscal year. But I would rather go ahead and do it now and get it out of the way, pad the finances a little bit, start paying for things that we need, and get it out of the way.
Well, it doesn't totally offset inflation, but part of the reason that our sales taxes are increasing so much is because of inflation. When you sell a $4 Big Mac for $8, you get twice as much sales tax as you did before. And that's part of the reason our numbers are going up so much now. Does that keep up with the inflation that we're paying for? Probably not, but it certainly helps. I mean, that's why part of the reason, we've gone from we're almost $2 million more in sales tax per year than we were 4 years ago or 5 years ago.
And then also, even though last year we gave a sweeping raise to the city employees, the way I understand it, we're still coming in under what a lot of other communities are paying, especially when it comes to our first responders and public safety. We keep seeing it where our police officers and our firefighters are coming in, they're getting trained, they're becoming certified police officers and firefighters, and they're going other places. They're seeing it in water, they're seeing it in public works. We can't keep good employees here because of the pay. And, the only way that we're going to be able to do that is to have more revenue to continue to pay our employees competitive wages, provide them their benefits, and continue to provide our services at a high end and high efficiency for the citizens of this community. We can't keep, putting decrepit equipment in the field to be used, putting Band-Aids on things that need to be replaced. And again, I don't want it any more than anybody else, but we were elected not to do what we want, but what this community needs. And unfortunately, I feel tonight that a hard decision is going to have to be made about raising the tax rate this next year.
Mr. Mayor, could I speak to a couple of things?
By all means.
Particularly as it pertains to the strategic plan that we went through that exercise a while back. And we were told three things. We were told that we wanted to have a safe community. We wanted to have good roads, and we wanted to have good infrastructure. That's what our residents told us. And so with that in mind, I just want to take a minute, if you don't mind, and kind of set some stuff straight. Mr. Brock, I'm sorry that he left, but hopefully he's watching at home and he can do this math. But for instance, one of the numbers that he quoted said that we had $844,000 of debt service per year. It's actually $1,026,563. So he missed that. In 2019, evidently, that was before my time on the board, we didn't have enough money to pay for paving. So this city borrowed money to pay for street paving that we're still paying on, to the tune of $200,080 in debt service a year. It's 5 years into that. The roads are 33% through their life expectancy, and we're still paying interest on money that we had to borrow to pave streets. That's not a need. That's not a want. That's a need. We don't need to finance stuff like that. Our source of financing for that is tax revenue, period. So with paving principal and interest being $200,000 a year, that's significant. The debt service for parks and recreation is $667,000 a year by itself. So with just those two numbers, we're way beyond the numbers that Mr. Brock espoused. And then on top of that, we've got Park Theater. That's another $137,000 on top of that. So when you look at those three things, you find that our city has taken a position that our Parks and Rec budget should exceed the budget of the fire department. Period. It takes more of every tax dollar the Parks and Rec department does than the fire department gets. I don't know how many people work for the Parks and Rec department that are going to come to your house at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's burning, but we need to think about that. Another thing, in our strategic plan, we've got a lot of stuff that needs to be done. And one of the things that struck me and I got this information, I think in a committee meeting, and just for the record, this kind of tells you where the priorities of this previous board have been. We have 25 vehicles in the McMinnville Police Department that are over 8 years old. That are actively used. We have 2 reserves. So there's 27 vehicles that are over 8 years old. I don't drive an 8-year-old vehicle. Probably not very many people on this board drive 8-year-old vehicle, but we've got people out there responding to issues in this community that are emergent in old equipment. And with their bullets could fly at them, and we've got them in something that is generally not even roadworthy after 8 years. We have 5 7-year-old vehicles in the police department, 4 6-year-old vehicles, and 3 that are 5 years old. We have actually taken our first responders and we've taken vehicles transferred from Public Works, Administration, and Parks and Rec and given them to the police department. So instead of buying equipment for these folks that would take a bullet for us, our previous finance committees have said, it's all right, we'll give you something. That's a slap in the face that we'll give you the Public Works guy, we'll give you an administrator, and we'll give you this and that. You can do that. Take it, peasant, and be happy. That's the way that seems to me. And it's wrong, period. And that's what happened before I was here. This is all historic. I'm just stating the facts. That's truly what has gone on. And out of this budget, the one that came through committee, not option B, out of that, we're spending $2.4 million in deficit spending. And that's a big deal. That's why that budget number, that's why that available cash goes from 7.9 down so far. But of that $2.4 million, $350,000 is going to the police department to buy police cars. $750,000 is going to fire department to buy a fire truck. We've got a fire engine over there. It's 30 years old. It doesn't even have proper safety equipment in it. It has lap belts. Would you put your kid in a car that's got a lap belt and run it through every red light in town? Nope, you wouldn't, but you put somebody's daddy in it. And that's not right either. Sidewalks, 85 grand. Lord knows we need those. Good. Stormwater infrastructure, 175,000. Good number. We need more of that. $19,000 for new rifles and optics for the SWAT team. And $764,054, to your point, Mr. Mayor, is going directly to the employees of the city. What's wasteful about that? That's it. So we have a $247,000 delta between our deficit spend and these purchases that I just got right here straight from the budget. What's foolish about that? Do we not need these things? I can guarantee you can ask our first responders and they'll tell you they need them. We absolutely need them. And the thing about it is we don't just need them once. We need them every year. At $350,000, Chief Mosley, how many vehicles do you guys, is that maybe 8 vehicles that you have in that budget for replacement at 350? Okay, it's 7. Okay, well, there's 25 here that are over 8 years old. So we would have to spend $1 million to replace the ones that are over 8 years old. Those numbers don't lie. Those are real numbers.
But everything you just talked about is still in version B.
Not the pay increases, not the pay.
In the
increases.
police department it is.
Yeah, but not for the fire department.
True.
And that's a big number too. And I
We're talking about
frankly,
police.
well, I was talking about, I was doing about all of it. It wasn't just, it was police and fire too. All of it. And I've just had this written here, so I'm just going to read exactly what it is. The reason for the need to have a tax increase is we're deficit spending this year to play catch up for years and years of the needs of the city being ignored by the board. We've rid ourselves of that mentality, and it's time to do the math, focus on the needs, not the wants, and properly equip our first responders, pay our employees market-based wages, and put some money back. So we aren't looking for grants for things that we're obligated to buy, or worse, looking to borrow money for things that we're obligated to provide. And anybody that thinks borrowing money is cheaper than having it and paying cash, they probably need to go smack their college finance professor, because you cannot borrow money less expensively than you can pay cash for it.
So
So,
what are you talking about borrowing money for what?
well, Mr. Brock,
Well, this.
I understand, but Mr.
nothing
Brock,
that's-
well, wait a
nothing
minute,
in this
this is my
proposal.
time. This is my time. This is not yours. I'm not, Mr. Brock states that we can do it more affordably by borrowing money. There's no way that you can borrow money.
That's not what I said.
Well, I know, but I'm not talking to you. I'm not, this is my moment.
Okay.
And this is what I'm saying. So you can't borrow money and have it be more affordable than just paying cash for it. That is nonsensical. So anyway, when we vote down developments, just like this board did a few weeks ago, we vote down developments, we vote down tax-based growth. And when we do that, we take that, what we could dilute the tax base and spread them over more and more addresses and help everybody. And when we make moves like that, we just take that tax burden and concentrate it on fewer and fewer addresses. And if this board doesn't pull its head out of the sand as a group and embrace development and embrace new ways of doing things, these kinds of things are going to continue to happen because we're not growing. Expenses are growing, but our tax base is not growing at the same rate. That's the reason that we need a tax increase. Now, whether it is 10 cents, 25 cents, 41 cents, that's open for debate. I'm not hung on one version of what tax rate it is. Not at all. But the fact that we can sit here and say that we don't need one is in direct contravention to the facts. Because we have $1 million worth of police cars we need to buy. $1 million. Where's that coming from? Because remember, the only reason we can do it this year is our ARP money. Our ARP money will be gone.
And I'm not saying that there may not be a need for one next year. I just don't think there's a need for one this year. Because I think our bottom line is going to be better than what we project of $5 million.
Well, I think that our bottom line is short-sighted because of the upcoming expenses that we have.
And if it is, then if we have a property tax increase next year, that money starts coming in October. I mean, it's not far away. I just don't think we need it right now. I think we are fine until next year, and then we'll see where we are.
Ms. Brown. Oh, I thought you were. I'm sorry.
And one other thing, I didn't ask the question, and I may have messed up by not mentioning this, but in version B, is the extra 25 to the library in that? Is it taken out of the budget, or
It is, it's removed.
I don't know if I can change my amendment at this point, but I would, if I can, I would like to leave that 25 in there for the library.
The way I understood that is if we do that in that way, then our MOE for every year it's eternal.
We were going to separate it and do.
Well, we were gonna do, I think, like a gift, like a one-time gift. That way the MOE stays the same.
Right.
And then they just get that money basically in a separate check, more or less.
And that is what we've removed, the extra.
Right. It was already separated.
That's right.
Is there any more discussion on Mr. Steve Harvey's motion that's on the table now?
Yes. So. We're all right. Nobody really likes a tax increase on anything. And that's just the way, that's the long and short of everybody. Nobody likes to pay more money. But I do agree that it's been a very long time in the making of a tax increase. And I think our city has suffered a lot, as Mr. Stacy said, about first of all, getting the city employees a raise was huge. All their infrastructure and the vehicles and the maintenance on everything has gone up. So I'm in agreement that I think we have to make a tax increase. And I guess it'll just be dependent on what version that we pick. But I do think that it's going to be necessary. We do not want to continue to stay where we are right now, because that's not what our future of the city of McMinnville is going to look like. We did a strategic planning. We sat there, we had a lot of goals, and the citizens of McMinnville want things, and the only way to provide them is to be able to have the funding for them. And yes, the ARP money is great. That was a gift, but that's not going to always be the case. So that is my opinion.
The conflict for me is, on the one hand, we get all the bells and whistles that we want. I'd love to have an indoor pool. Let's add another $1. As opposed to leaving money in the taxpayer, the citizens' pockets. And it's where are you going to stand there?
Well, Rachel, to your point, I think that, when I met with Nolan a little earlier today, because I hadn't had a chance to go over this version B with him. I think that's important that we understand, and correct me if anybody in this room has the right number and I'm about to say the wrong number. But from what I understand, 53% of the homes in this city are not owner occupied. 53%. So what we're here talking about is we're talking about who we trying to help. Are we trying to help the 53% of the people that are renting homes to people, apartments, whatever? Are we trying to help the 47% that live in their homes? Because we can't cover them all with the same blanket.
Well, if you rent your property, I mean, your rent is just offset by whatever property taxes are paid on that
I
property.
understand that, but it's
So, I mean, you're
important that
paying
we
them one way or the
understand,
other.
it's important that we understand, and that it's clearly espoused in this meeting on the record that 47%, only 47% of the 6,600 addresses in this city are owner occupied. Period. And that's a big deal. That's a really big deal. To me, it's a really big deal. It's because everybody just assumes that everybody that lives in this town is a homeowner, and that's not the case. We have a problem in this town already with housing. And, we need to just know that. That's a very telling statistic in this area. And I would just wonder how many landlords are raising hell about this versus how many homeowners. That's a big question.
Again, if you rent, you're paying property taxes indirectly, just like you do if you own the house. I mean, it gets passed on. So, I mean, that's the same difference. And for the record, I have not had one landlord say anything to me about the property tax rate. Not one.
All right, we'll call for the vote.
Mr. Mayor, what exactly are we voting on?
We are voting on his motion, and I believe Sally's second, to adopt version B with no tax increase.
Are they not done separately? I thought you had to get the tax rate was done after that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can do it that way. That was just the motion that was made and the second.
So you ready to roll call?
I don't know. I thought, I just did that because I thought that was how it's supposed to be done.
All right, the first vote is to adopt version B.
Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Sally Brock,
Yes.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Rachel Kirby,
Yes.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Carrie Morton,
Yes,
Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Now, we will call the vote.
That's just what I said in writing that we.
Thank you. Motion with the,
We have again a motion from Mr. Steve Harvey, seconded by Miss Sally Brock, to keep the tax rate as is with no increase.
okay. Steve Harvey,
Yes.
Sally Brown,
Yes.
Victor Dunlap,
No.
Rachel Kirby.
What did everybody vote? I'm sorry. I missed
Okay.
The first two.
We're keeping the tax rate as is.
Okay. Okay, so keeping it as is, which is 0.
1.8497, what it is now.
Yes.
Stacy Harvey,
Nay.
Carrie Morton,
no,
Mayor Chastain.
No, motion fails. So we have three options in front of us, none of which are set in stone. These are just examples of what a potential ending fund balance would look like at 10 and 25 and 41. You know, to echo what Mr. Stacy Harvey said, I'm not dead set on 41. I think that fund balance is ideal and really pads the finances for the future to allow us to do more things. But, you know, I'm more than willing to compromise with other members of the board to start at less and go up in the future if need be. So what are the,
I would make a motion to set the tax rate at a 0.25 on version B.
I'll second it.
we have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey and a second by Miss Carrie Morton to move forward with version B with the addition of a 25% tax increase. Discussion. Any comments by the
Will that be
board?
the largest one ever?
Samantha?
I believe
I think there was one, one.
about
just a tad
32
bit,
cents
wasn't
was
it?
the highest.
It was either 32 or 27, I think.
Wasn't there a year that it went down? Didn't they take it down one
Yeah.
year?
Yeah, right after it went up 1 year and then it was adjusted
Well,
down the next year, I believe.
It was the property assessments caused the rates would have gone up, and we lowered it to basically make it net zero.
Well, I think that, negotiation is where not everybody gets everything that they want. And so I think that personally, I think that the 25 is a compromise between 0 and 41. It's what we have. And we know we've got to have something. 10's not going to be enough. 41 might have been too
I
much.
think 10 is enough to start with.
We don't want to have to do this again next year, though.
Well, it could be 0 and we could still be fine according to this.
Yeah.
According to this, we're close enough at 0.
Well, 0
I don't know
failed.
why you do 40 or 20. if you
0
do 10.
failed.
Well, I know it did, but according to this, it's close. It's very close to being okay. I
Samantha,
don't know
what?
why you do 20 if you could do 10.
We've had multiple 27-cent tax increases, 20 cents, 25 cents. And the reductions have been, with the exception of one, due to tax reappraisals. There was one reduction that was outside of a tax reappraisal year. So the 25 cents as proposed would not be the highest. It would be in the upper range of what we have seen in the past. There are multiple 27s and 25s.
Thank you.
It just seems like, again, how much money do you want to leave in your citizens' pockets during this hard time? Everybody says everything's costing more. I forget what they said this was going to cost per household.
$169, I think at 41 cents.
41 cents is $171 to the average tax bill, and then 25 cents is $104 to the average tax bill.
Per year.
$8.50 a month.
That's right. I would start with 10 if you needed more next year. If according to this chart, with 10, we're fine.
I don't think that was the motion, though. I think the motion of the second was 25.
The second.
Well, it wasn't, but we had discussion.
So any further discussion on 25 cents?
Nobody likes this. I mean, I'm just saying, nobody likes it.
Well, I just don't think that that's
Yeah.
necessary, and I don't think we should do it if it's not necessary. It's not.
Well, if history proves that it was wrong, then next year we can lower it. I mean, that's the worst thing that can happen is we say, hey, you know, just like we did on the vote for the elections. What was that deal where we changed? I can't even remember. That was wrong. We did it. It was wrong. We backed it off. We said it was wrong. I know this. I'll stand up this time next year and say I got that wrong. I have no problem getting it wrong. I just don't want to get it wrong. And I just don't want to get it wrong the other way. I'd rather get it wrong by underestimating our revenue rather than overestimating our revenue.
Well, that sounds good. Until you're that citizen out there that I think we are standing here and we're supposed to provide what you say. I know what you say is true. It is that we need good fire. We need good police. We need good infrastructure. But people need their money too. If we don't absolutely need it, it's not mine. It's theirs. And I think they should have it unless we absolutely need it desperately. And I just think that we can do 10 and then see about next year and see where we end up, because I think we're okay.
I don't think we need to do 10 this year and wait till next year, but that's just.
What do you mean?
I'm going for 0 this year and if it doesn't work out, then there's next year.
I think that works as well. I think that scenario works too.
Right now, the motion on the table is for 25 cents, so we will call for the vote.
Stacy Harvey,
Aye.
Carrie Morton,
Yes,
Sally Brock,
No.
Deidre Dunlap,
Aye.
Steve Harvey,
No.
Mayor Chastain.
Aye. Motion passes.
How about?
They didn't call.
Rachel Kirby, I'm sorry.
No.
Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is departmental reports. Any department head wish to address the board, come on up. Mr. Main, do you have anything?
I do not.
Any announcements for the board? Hearing none, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Still.